gonna be knocking out shoulders today. Gonna do my intro real fast. This is a stream of my workouts. I'm Tim. I am not, or thing that sets my body transformation apart. I'm doing a body transformation this year. The thing that sets it apart is I'm not doing any sort of supplements, so no protein shakes, no protein powders, no creatine, no BCAAs. Just trying to see what I can do with just getting nutrients from my food. I'm not opposed to supplements. I've taken them in the past. I think they work great. If you enjoy taking them, awesome. I just want to see what a year is like without it. So that's pretty basic. Gonna start out with shoulder presses, 10 pounds, 4.53 kilograms. Let's see, it's Tuesday today. I'm a little sick, congested, having some sort of fun sickness. It's giving me like tiny headaches, which is lots of fun, but still working out, working through it. Gotta do what you can when you can. So, yesterday was doing biceps, which is my favorite, so it wasn't so hard to work through. But doing cardio later was rough. I absolutely did not want to do cardio and had lots of excuses to not run, but pulled it together, got it done. I'm better for it. No, it was a rough go. So, and it's not even that intense. It's just doing it on the treadmill, which sucks. But gotta do what you can do. I'm definitely like getting tired of counting calories. I talked about it. Definitely just want to beast. Just want to eat and throw caution to the wind. The only problem with that is like on the weekends, I do beast a little bit, and man, I my stomach was tore up this weekend from losing control. It backfires quick. That's the problem with like clean eating. Is it seems so awesome and you feel better for it, but then you like really want to eat something that you know you shouldn't, and then you do, and it tastes good, and it's everything you thought it would be, but then it hits your system, and man, you really feel how bad it is for you. It's crazy how good it can be and just kill it at the same time. But it's funny, and as much as like when you're eating clean, you feel better, and you know you're feeling better. It's just so easy in life to switch back to just eating like crap and then feeling like garbage, but you get used to the feeling again. You know, so I think the feeling like garbage is outdone by the joy of eating whatever you want. Like when you like, you know what, I can eat whatever I want, and I'm gonna eat whatever I want. That feels so good that the garbage feeling gets kind of sidebarred. It's like, nah, it's worth it. You know, I recognize that about like drinking. Is I would get you get into cycles where you you're drinking lots of caffeine, and then you drink beer at night or hard alcohol, which lets you get to sleep, but it's not good sleep. So when you wake up, you hit the caffeine right away, and you hit the caffeine all day, keep up, and then you alcohol to go down. And just a cycle that doesn't work. But then there's also the funny side about like weightlifting is when you're trying to build up bigger and bigger muscles, you keep doing things that makes your body feel sore. And then you feel better for a couple of days. On the weekend, you might start to feel better. Like on Sunday, you feel really good on Sunday, but then you do it all again on Monday. It's like leg day. If you're hitting leg day hard, or at least the way when I hit leg day, you got at least 3 days, if not 4, where you're sore, and then you have 3 days where you're not. 3 or 4 days where you're not sore. So you're like intentionally making yourself sore on a regular basis. But at least like when you look at yourself after working out and being sore, it's a lot better than looking at yourself after drinking heavily and eating badly. I gotta say though, this next time when I get under 200 calories, when I get under 200 pounds, I really want it to be the last time I'm under 200 pounds, or sorry, over 200 pounds. I want to stay under 200 pounds. I want to fight really hard to get below 190 and then just kind of stay there. It's very frustrating every time I go above 200. I got close to 220 this time. 218 was the most I saw on the scale. And I was like, I'm not doing it, man. Can't. It would break my heart to be above 220 again. I was super bummed when I got past 200, bummed when I got past 210. But being at 220 would have been super frustrating. All right. And definitely, I'm looking forward to when I'm done cutting weight to eating again, and want to start working my way up to more weight again. My kids keep getting heavier. If I'm going to be able to keep throwing them up in the air, I need to continue to step my game up. I want to be able to get some good height at the swimming pool or at the beach when I throw them. I feel like big shoulders helps that. My one kid, they're getting heavier fast. Like, and not like in a bad way, they're just getting bigger. And like just carrying them on my shoulders, I can really feel the difference. and how big they're getting. It was fun. We were on a walk last night. We found a frog. And we see lizards all the time when we walk in the daytime. But my kids aren't quite fast enough yet to catch a lizard. And so they caught this frog. And fast enough to catch frogs. And they were playing with it for a while. Catching frogs is a lot easier than lizards, but they'll work up the lizards. I was kind of bummed. I was like having a hard time catching a lizard with my hands, and I used to be so good at it. And I was like, man, am I getting too slow? But I realized like I kept trying to catch them when we were on hikes, and I would have like a backpack on. I was like, probably would be better at catching lizards if you took the backpack off. So did that, and was able to pick them up a lot better, a lot faster. So I felt good again. We used to catch so many lizards when we were kids. And do that trick where you flip them over and you do their bellies so they fall asleep. I've heard it's not true that they're not really falling asleep. They're actually oxygen depriving them. But I don't know. All right, gonna go on down to 35 pounds. Catching lizards and frogs was always fun as a kid. When you do it a lot, like you just get faster and faster at it. If you haven't done it for a while, those reflexes get slower. thing I got really good at as a kid was catching flies. I used to like catching flies. My dad would pretend to catch a fly, and I always thought he was so fast at it that I didn't know he was pretending. Um, so I got really good at catching them, so I wanted to be like him. The other one I like to do was that picnics and stuff when you're down by the lake. Oh, thank you for the follow, Dale's house. We'd be down at the lake, or you'd be like camping, and you get like the wasps that come around to your food. My favorite thing to do would be to like smack them out of the air. It was fun. Probably not the most, you know, nature friendly game. It was something I enjoyed doing as a kid because it made you feel like Bruce Lee. Anything you did that was involving like catching flies or like smacking wasps out of the air was all about trying to be like Bruce Lee or Mr. Miyagi. One of the things I learned in martial arts that like oddly is applicable to a lot of parts of life was through breaking boards, and then you apply it to people's heads. But when you want to break a board with your fist, they say the common mistake people make is they stop at the board and their focus is just hitting the board. But if you want to break the board, you have to focus on going through the board. You have to put your target beyond the board. And that was like the same thing I found about flies or wasps, is you had to, aim just past them to catch them. And why I say it's applicable is that's most goals in life. I find if you really want to smash a goal, you need to, aim to go past it. And it's pretty basic. I mean, they do that for everything. Nobody practices a, marathon by just running a marathon. They run just a little bit farther. They practice to run longer than they need to. If you're playing basketball, you don't practice for a 1 hour game. You practice to go a little bit longer. If you want to hit a goal, you got to plan on smashing through it. You want to catch a lizard. Yeah. That's why I think organized sports or martial arts or something is so important for kids. You learn a lot of lessons in them that I don't think you learn as easily in other things. And I know people will say like, "Oh, there's people that are not athletically inclined," um, and maybe, but sometimes I feel like some people who are just not good at the sports their parents want them to be good at, or they don't have the skill for the sports that are most popular in the area. Well, look at like skaters. How many skaters would have never known that they could be so awesome with a board before it was possible. See a lot of great athletes that skateboard and really impressive. But imagine a time where they couldn't just buy a skateboard and go have fun. That athletic skill that they possessed might go undervalued their whole life. And they may be somebody that thought like, oh, I never was physically gifted. They just didn't know the thing they were physically gifted at. I think that's why it's good. Find a sport that you're good at and you enjoy. For me, it's fighting. I like wrestling. I like anything where I can hit a target right in front of me. Like I was never very good at basketball. I'm like one of the worst shots. I either overdo it, I just like a finesse. I either overdo the shot or I undershoot. But 99.9% of the time I overshoot. I shoot too hard. I can do everything else in basketball well. And if you tell me to hold on to the ball and don't let anyone have it, I can do that all day. Basketball for me was really fun when I was younger because we grew up and when we played it, we would play like really rough. Like nobody would call fouls, and then like you would knock people to the ground, you would trip people, and it was basically football/basketball. And I loved that game. And then like halfway through middle school, people started calling fouls, and they wanted to be good at the game, and they were getting upset when you would trip them. It just stopped being as fun. And then for a long time, like if I played basketball, I'd have to be really careful not to like turn around and trip someone because all of my instincts in the game dictated that you were allowed to trip people and that if someone was going past you fast, you just kick their feet out from under them. And that was a unfortunate one because I didn't always catch myself. There were times where it would just happen and then I'd have to apologize. And it'd be embarrassing because you'd be playing with like friends and stuff and you kick someone's legs out from under them and they get hurt and you're like, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to do that, it just happened. And you feel like such a jerk. I just hope my kids are better at at throwing the ball and shooting and stuff. A little bit more finesse than me. Although I do still want them to learn how to fight. I think being able to fight is important. Having, some sort of self-defense skill. Come on. All right, I'm gonna go down 30 pounds. And we're almost less than or just over 3 months left in the year, and been working out solidly this whole time, and definitely doing the calorie cut is making it harder. But I'm really glad the year is almost over. I'm super excited to see how this all turns out. And I'm excited. Like I really wanted to see what going without any sort of um, supplements would do, where I would end up. Was it gonna be easy or hard to not take a bunch of protein powder and creatine and pre workouts, or would it be easy? It's definitely right now. It feels harder because it would be easier to just consume lots of protein and like shakes and powders and like not having to measure out as much food because you would know like, oh, this is this much. But it's all right. It'll be good. the thing is I know like however well I do, I know there's gonna be like people that are like, oh, like it's not that big, or I would be bigger, and I know there's a lot of like guys that muscle building is the majority of their days, and they're like, oh man, like no, I need that product, and I can't go without that product. But I think the reality of what they're doing and what I'm doing and what most of us in this world is doing is something very different. And when we see like when they push products, and I'm not saying they're pushing them like in a bad way, like they use the products, they like the products, they're selling the product. But when they sell you the product, um, I just feel like it's probably not something that we all need. It's what they need because they've reached such a peak level that they need that to keep going, and it makes sense. But for a lot of us, I just don't know how much sense it made. And the one that really like made me feel that way is watching my dad start lifting again. And my dad, I always forget, I think he's 63. So my dad's 63, or yeah, 63. So when he started lifting again, I thought he was going to need a bunch of products. And again, he just ate normal and worked out hard and was fine. One of my kids is up in motion. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. No, I just since he didn't need anything and was doing fine getting back in shape, I was like, well, why am I thinking that I need all this stuff? Plus, at least I know whatever body I build, I can maintain it with the food that I eat, and I won't I won't go through that thing where I'm like, oh man, I ran out of creatine for a week, and my muscles are squirting water, and I look so deflated. It just won't happen. And I always try to keep in mind that heaven forbid the system go down, but say everything goes down, I don't want to be so chemically dependent on a bunch of extra stuff to keep my body moving. The worst thing I want to have to like be dependent on is caffeine. And with that, like I keep enough caffeine in the house that I can wean myself off of it if I don't have, so I don't have to just do like a big crash. Like that was like the thing I thought when I first saw the show lost when they're all in the airplane crash. And I was like, any second now, everybody should be dying from caffeine pain. Like most everyone should be having horrible headaches and so much agony from lack of caffeine. It's one element that like is missing from most disaster situations is everyone seems to skip caffeine withdrawals. And they'll talk about coffee later. They're like, "Oh, I really wish I had a cup of hot coffee," but the whole time their world's like spinning out of control. Like they're fine. Like their caffeine is not like killing them, or lack of caffeine isn't killing them. That was the one thing I liked. I think it was like the second Hunger Games book, the black market where Hamish buys all his alcohol is gonna shut down, and his friends have all stockpiled alcohol to keep him alive and not going through withdrawals and dying. And I was like, that's such a good detail to the story that I think a lot of people would miss. Like like caffeine wouldn't even be the worst like drug that people would go missing. Like if everything shut down, like forget about the guys that are running around addicted to meth and crack, like what those guys will turn out to be, but just your normal everyday, seemingly everyday friend of yours that misses his or her pills that ensure their mental health. Like those will all be gone. And how will they do trying to deal with life without any of those drugs? Like that's the and like you're not even really able to stockpile those drugs as a person because they're prescribed and controlled substances. People will be losing their minds. All right, gonna switch to shoulder shrugs. When the disaster strikes, all those guys that work so hard to maintain a super low body fat percentage, and they're like, oh man, like I got like a 10% body fat. They're gonna be so bummed when they have to like go days without food and they just can't. I've said it before, that's the thing I question about the movie 300 is the amount of supplies they brought to feed those guys. They all had like no body fat. All right, gonna switch to the 50s. And I think it's easy to forget like how much those like guys need to eat to keep going or just to feel good. I have a brother-in-law that's pretty tall and on the more naturally thin side. Like he has like a pretty fast metabolism. And we went to Disneyland and he had to stop and eat so many times compared to like the rest of us. And it was impressive like how much he was eating. But just the importance too about like keeping him fed. It's crazy. But I can't imagine like what it would be like if he had like a 15% body fat and had to eat like that, but then there was no food. I feel like he would be pretty fine. Or sorry, I feel like the rest of us, if we were like on a ship and we were just starting to feel hunger, I feel like he'd be like already ready to cannibalize people. We'd be like, it's not that bad. I'm just a little hungry. And he'd be like, when are we going to draw lots? I am ready to eat one of you. I heard an interesting thing though that if you are on a ship and it does become time to cannibalize people and you've all been starving, that it's potentially not the best idea because whatever meat you get off of someone that's starving is already very toxic and not healthy meat to eat. So eating somebody that's been starving, I hear, is actually really unhealthy for you. Not to say you should just eat them earlier on, but if you are going to eat somebody, don't wait till everyone's starved to death. You gotta do it earlier. Maybe I am saying eat them early on, but that's just what I hear. I think the timing of when you eat people too is really rough. It's like I've heard a story like a friend when they finally broke down, the one guy ate the other one, that they got like rescued. He got rescued like shortly after, and he might have been just fine just to keep going. And then there was like accusations that he killed his friend to eat him, and then it's manslaughter charges, and it's like a whole big thing that he could have avoided if he had just waited a little bit longer. So many things go into eating your friends. You just don't think about. So I think it's important to have like fishing line if you're gonna be at sea or risking being at sea. Fishing line and a basic hook, because then you don't necessarily have to eat each other. You just have to supply pieces as bait. And I would much rather like shave a piece off of my pinky or something for bait than to eat someone. And you fish, and then you use that fish for bait. That's one thing we were watching that show. Um, I think it's Survive or something, but it's a survival show that's on Netflix where they're trying to get $1 million. It's a group splitting it, and I think it's called Outlast maybe, but they like catch mice and they catch food, but then you never see them using it as bait. And it's like, guys, like, don't eat every mouse you catch. Use that to catch more things. Make that your bait. They don't seem to do that. I like to ask them why, because they all are supposed to be like outdoors people. I want to see what their reason was for not using them for trapping. When I was a kid, you read like the stories about the Donner Party, and they talked about how they were scraping the hair off of the buffalo hides they had to eat the hair, and just how awful that sounded. Like they were putting it in like a pot and melting it somehow, or somehow they were trying to make it more palatable to eat hair. And just that struck me as a really, really bad idea. I think you can't really process hair. I think it would just be making you full. All right, one of my kids is up and exploring. I gotta go before they get in trouble. Thank you so much for coming by. I appreciate it. Happy Tuesday. We made it through Monday. Hopefully the rest of your week goes good, and I'll see you again. God bless you.